Is there a difference between making a movie where you are the filmmaker, literally taking the film and going out into the world, and a film where you are taking somebody else's material? I can see some pros and cons to that.
Well, this is the first film that I've directed, so I can only speak to having been given so much footage and having a blank canvas and having.
But you've certainly worked with some, Morgan Spurlock and A.J. Schnack, and you've worked with some really extraordinary filmmakers. So you've seen the process.
Yes.
Differently.
Yes, I have. But I'm not sure if there's a difference. I think that you're telling a story, and with those filmmakers that you mentioned, I would see rough cuts, and that those films were shot chronologically, and I think that's the difference, is that I was given so much material, which is an incredible opportunity and a beautiful journey that you can take making a film, but then you still have to sort of figure out what the holes are. So it's really a hybrid
Right.
in
I
storytelling.
think, to me, I would think the negatives are you aren't there to say, oh yeah, we need them walking through the door. The positives are you get very intimate material that you might not get if you were a stranger sitting there with a camera, and you get a very complete document. It's interesting that obviously this is not a film that would have been made 50 years ago because people weren't documenting their lives the way that they are. And that also is interesting to just think about whether what you see in a movie like this is different than what you might have seen in a movie where people weren't so accustomed to being filmed. Do you know what I mean? It's just interesting. We're so comfortable with the camera now that you get an intimacy that you don't normally get in a lot of films, which is really wonderful, especially in a story like this.
Yeah, and great storytellers. Desmond and Curtis and Angela are great storytellers.
Yes.
They have a lot of humor.
And
so I had one,
Roman
and the kids,
Nyro.
I had incredible subjects
Right.
to work with, even if I was just going to start shooting day one.
Yeah, people with a sense of story and drama, not people who are like, how do you feel right now? I feel great, which is really hard to make
One
a movie
answer,
around.
right? Exactly,
Yeah.
like one sentence. But there were situations where we'd say, oh, we need a piece of footage, and we would go hunting and hunting and hunting for it, and then we would just have to do something else because it didn't exist, and we couldn't recreate it because it was needed to be back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to think that even with 300 hours that there's still, pieces of story that wouldn't be there. So that's why, we decided you decided let's tell the story from the perspective of the kids and let's do all those new interviews, which really drove the storyline.